Maryland diamond ring.
Football.
I have props, everybody, for this particular report. For the second straight year, I am previewing, by request, the UConn football team. And when you think about Connecticut athletics, what do you usually think about? This is usually what you think about. Their men's team has won 4 national championships, and of course the women's team, iconic. Of course, they've won just an absolute shitload of national championships. Yeah, when you think about Connecticut athletics, you think about this typically on a nationwide scale. You usually don't think about this. Football team, far less history. Of course, they haven't been a part of FBS football that long. And if you're talking about their biggest success, it would have been 2010 when they went to the Fiesta Bowl to play my Oklahoma Sooners. Now, Randy Etsall was a part of that 2010 Fiesta Bowl team for the Huskies, and he stepped away from UConn football for about 6 years. Came back last year for his second tenure, and he found out that Connecticut football has a lot of work that needs to be done. The year before he made his return in 2016, they only won 3 games. And last year, at one point, UConn was at 3-4, maybe onto something, but then lost their last 5 to finish just like they did in 2016 at 3-9. Let's begin my 2018 UConn preview by talking about the offense. And, you know, they were able to move the ball. They did have some success as far as moving it. Over 400 yards of total offense. But then, yeah, the quality just wasn't there on the scoreboard, averaging less than 24 points per game. You do get a quarterback who did play last year coming back, even though he didn't play the whole year. David Pendell started the season, but then gave way to Bryant Sheriffs, who played the majority of games. Sheriffs then had concussion issues, so Pendell came back to play the last 3 games. And not very impressive stats, 6 interceptions, only 4 touchdowns. But maybe a new offensive coordinator is what the doctor ordered. And you bring in John Dunn, and this is the 5th coordinator that UConn's had in the past 5 seasons. So as far as, you know, establishing that continuity, it hasn't been there at all. So maybe now's the time for Pendell to show what he can do. And I think he can show what he can do. He's had a pretty strong spring, but needs time to throw. That's going to be the big thing. Can he get the protection needed to have UConn become that quality offense? But it can't just come from the quarterback. The running backs have to do their part. And so you bring a couple of guys that combined for 900 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns last season for the Huskies. That's Kevin Mincha, who played quite a bit as a freshman, and you have Nate Hopkins joining him as well. The UConn running game last year was just mediocre at best, only 146 yards on the ground per game. But passing is where UConn did their most effectiveness, averaging almost 270 yards in the air per game, and you get several weapons back. Hershey Mayala is one of them, 43 catches in 2017, had 7 touchdowns, and you also get back Quavon Skanes as well. But so much of the focus is going to be on the offensive line. They had 8 players that started at least 1 game in 2017. Half of those were freshmen or sophomores, so at least some experience comes back, but they have got to be more physical. Last year, it was an offensive line that just didn't create the running lanes as often as required, and the protection at times had issues as well. But Ryan Van DeMark does come back at the left tackle position, started as a freshman, and at left guard, another guy who was a freshman last year in Cam DeGeorge. And on the opposite side at right tackle, you do get back a junior in Matt Pearl. I think if this offensive line can show some improvement, then they'll have something, not necessarily this year, because I think UConn, talent-wise, is still behind a good chunk of the American Athletic Conference, but maybe 2019, 2020, because this offensive line only has 1 starter that's a senior, and that's the center. So there's some optimism there for the future. But defensively, I can't be optimistic about this group at all. A year ago, they were one of the worst defenses in college football, was UConn. Gave up over 500 yards per game, 4th worst in college football, and their pass defense was the worst in college football. 334 yards per game is what they gave up. And to make matters worse, 6 of your top 8 tacklers have departed, and of the 23 sacks you had last year, 19 of them are from players that aren't there anymore. Only 2 full-time starters are back, and none of them are in the front 6. UConn will play a 3-3-5 alignment, but it's going to be struggle city for this UConn defense. For one, they're just not good, and number 2, they're going to be, for the most part, completely green. One thing that should help, though, is getting a transfer on that defensive line from the U, from Miami, and Ryan Fines. And a guy that they are kind of high on, too, as a freshman is Caleb Thomas, also up front. The secondary is going to supply the experience for this Huskies team. Marsha Terry does come back at the corner position, and Tyler Cole opposite of him at the other corner, and you do have Omar Fort at a safety position. And this is, like I said, will be the most experienced area for this Husky squad. And once again, to state the rather obvious, UConn's got to get better defensively. And with so many new players entering 2018, I'm not seeing much light at the end of the tunnel in this category. Schedule for the Huskies, well, the first 2 games won't be pretty. You have to open with a conference game, and it's against the only team last year in college football that didn't lose. That was Central Florida. The next week, not easy as well, taking on nationally ranked Boise State. Some shots at victories, though, for this Huskies team, and I think their first realistic shot at one September 15th against Rhode Island, it better be. And later in the month, Cincinnati, a team that edged out UConn last season, beat them by 1 point, but this time you get the Bearcats at home. The next 2 games, no way. At Memphis and at South Florida, they're pretty good teams. Maybe a shot at a win against UMass on the 27th of October. And then 3 of those final 4 games, I think they have a shot at wins. At Tulsa, SMU, at East Carolina, but the Huskies will have to play well. Those won't be givens. And then the final game of the year, I don't expect them to beat Temple. Randy Etsall squad, well, this season, once again, is going to be a learning process, and I see UConn losing a lot more than winning. In fact, I think they're going to go 3-9, but I think they avoid the cellar and will finish 5th in the AAC East Division. That's my look at UConn. We'll see you next time.